Hello and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what expository writing is, and we'll take a look at a graphic organizer and a finished expository essay. All right, so let's begin. What is expository writing? Well, it is when you write about a person, a place, or a thing, but the purpose here is to give the reader a lot of information. So remember, expository writing is done to increase the knowledge of the reader about a specific topic or a specific subject. So this type of writing educates the reader by giving information. Now, you're going to be practicing writing a problem and solution expository essay. There are many different types of expository essays, but you're going to focus on this one. So a problem or solution expository essay, as the name suggests, is an essay where you write about one specific problem or related problems, and then you argue or propose one or more solutions to those problems. Now, planning expository writing is no different from planning any other essay. You start off by brainstorming a topic. So either a teacher would give you the topic, or you may want to brainstorm and think of a topic yourself. Think about things that bother you or problems that you think need solving. For example, you might want to argue for solutions to problems in your neighborhood, or argue for solutions to the problems, the dangers of food additives. Now, once you've done all of that brainstorming, you can do a little bit of research online so that you are sure that you have enough information to write about. Now, once you've brainstormed all of the different topics you can work on, the next step, of course, is to choose one of the topics to write about. Then you need to start making a plan for your writing. This is where the graphic organizer comes in. So you write all of your plans, everything that you want to write about in your essay in the correct order in your graphic organizer. Now, once you're done with your graphic organizer, the next step is, of course, to write your first draft. So you take all of the information from your graphic organizer, you add more information and write complete sentences and make sure that you've put in all of your research. This is your first draft. Next, you have to revise everything. So all of your writing for your first draft, you can either go through it yourself or ask a teacher or a peer, a friend to go through your writing. Now, the final thing to do after you've made all of the revisions, all of the corrections and changes, now it's time to write your final copy. So the final copy is when you incorporate all of the revision suggestions. You have to edit your work, make sure that you're using strong research to support all of your ideas, make sure that you're using interesting, strong vocabulary. And your paragraphs should be well structured with their points and the information. Now, like I said, you will be looking at problem and solution essays. Now, let's assume that your problem is wasting newspapers or wasting paper. So the first thing to do is to interest the reader in the problem. Explain to the reader why this is a problem and why they should care. So it's not just a problem that, exists randomly in a void. It is a problem that is important and needs to be solved. Now, let's assume that your solution is to support local businesses that make handmade paper, to buy from them regularly instead of buying notebooks from a store. So explain your solution clearly, convince the reader that your solution is the correct solution, and convince the reader that your solution is better than any other solution out there. So this is just a very simple example of a problem and a solution. You can, of course, pick more complex problems and more complex solutions. All right. Now, the most important part of a problem and solution essay is essentially the solution part. You have to describe a detailed solution. It has to be very clear what your solution is and why you are recommending it. Also, argue that your solution is affordable, feasible, and a better solution than anything else out there right now. So get creative, do your research, try to think of a solution that's better than the solutions that already exist. Okay, now the parts of an expository essay are pretty similar to any other essay. You have an introduction, you have 3 body paragraphs, and you have a concluding paragraph. In an expository essay, though, you may have more than 3 body paragraphs, depending on how much information you actually want to write about. So let's take this step by step. In your introduction, this is where you introduce the problem. Describe what the problem is to your readers. Give a brief discussion, a brief description, and say why it needs to be solved. Now, as with any essay, you are going to write a thesis statement, but here your thesis statement is for your solution. Now, some hints here, things that could help you: identify the problem very clearly. Make sure that you're not confusing the reader with different problems or with different aspects of a problem that you're not going to provide solutions for. Just focus on exactly what you are going to provide solutions for. Now, usually your thesis statement or thesis sentence comes after the description of the problem. However, you could also describe in this paragraph other solutions that exist right now, but are not feasible or not really successful. So you could describe those solutions, and then you can write your thesis statement with your proposed solutions that you think are better than the other solutions out there. Now your 3 body paragraphs. Let's start with body paragraph number 1, which will be explaining the problem. So again, give detailed information here, explain it clearly and specifically. Give lots of background information to help support why this problem is a big one and why it's important. Demonstrate that it is a genuine problem that affects many people by citing reasons. Here, you have to give research and cite your sources. Next, body paragraphs 2 and 3. This is where you offer concrete solutions. Now, if your solution calls for a series of steps or actions to be followed, present the steps in a logical order. Now, make sure that you are not just describing the steps. You have to give detailed solutions or detailed steps as to how the solution will solve the problem. Give evidence that your solution will work. This is where your research comes into play. And argue that this solution that you have is going to solve the problem. It can be implemented. It's not very difficult to do, and it is better than your other solutions. Now, these 2 body paragraphs, your problem body paragraph and your solution body paragraph, could be more than just 3. So you could have 2 or 3 problem paragraphs, 2 or 3 solution paragraphs. It just depends on how much information you have to give that you think is relevant, and it won't confuse the reader. Finally, you have your concluding paragraph. The purpose of a concluding paragraph, of course, is to re-emphasize whatever you've already written in your essay, remind the reader about the importance of the problem and the value of your solution. Some hints here. Tell the reader what should happen if your solution is implemented. If it's possible, give the reader some real-life examples showing how, if your plan is adopted, what it could do and what the effects could be. Make sure here that you cite facts, figures, or if there's anybody who's an expert in the field, you can cite their testimony. And if you want, you could end your essay with a strong call to action. Now, before you actually start writing your graphic organizer, before you start putting your points into these paragraphs, the first thing you need to do, of course, is to research. So the assumption is that you already have a topic in mind or you have a general area in mind. So this is where you need to start your research. Let's take a look at the inquiry process. As a student, especially one that is writing an expository essay, you have to ask and answer a lot of questions. Not just questions about your topic, but questions about what the answers could be, or questions about where to find this information that would be helpful. So let's start with the first part of the inquiry process, which is to pose real questions. Now, these are not just questions about the topic, but really questions about what do you know about the topic. So the first part is, what do you want to know about this topic? What do you know about the question that you are posing in the essay? And how do you know this information? Is it something that you heard from a friend, or is it something that you read in a newspaper? Remember, the source of your information is also very important. What do you need to know for this topic? This is really important because this is where your research actually starts. It's great that you have a lot of information already, but what do you need to know to write a strong, solid essay? That's what you should write down. And finally, what could your answer be? What could your solution be? So the first part, of course, is to pose real questions. Next, find resources, and not just any resources. Make sure that your resources are credible. So what kinds of resources might help? Do you think finding an article in a newspaper could help? Or do you think finding a comic book strip that addresses pollution could help? You have to think critically and see which resource is really going to help your essay. Where can you find these resources? You can either look for it online or you could go to your local library. How do you know that the information is valid? That's something that you need to really think about. And I'm going to give you more information about this question in just a little bit. Who is responsible for the information? Again, who wrote the information? Who's responsible for editing the information? I'm going to give you more information about that as well. And finally, what other information is there? So you've looked at a couple of sources, you found some information. Now, what other information is available? Next, interpret the information. It's not enough to just find all of this information. You can't just copy and paste it, can you? The thing that you have to do is critically analyze it. So how is the information relevant to the question that you posed? What parts of that information support your answer? Because on a website, you'll have paragraphs and paragraphs of information. You have to pick the parts that are relevant. You can't just write everything. You could confuse the reader or worse, make them bored. So you have to pick only the information that's important. How does it relate to what else you know? Maybe you can draw connections to other things that you've learned about the topic, and it could help your essay. What parts do not support your answer? Like I said, if it doesn't support your answer, doesn't support your question, get rid of it. And does it raise any new questions, new interesting questions that you might want to look at or you might want to answer? And finally, reporting your findings. This is where you actually start your writing. So what is the main point? What are you focusing on? So what's your problem and what's your solution? Who is your audience? That's really important, but we're going to focus on that in another video. What else is important? It's a vague question, but it's here because as a researcher, as a student, you may suddenly think of something else that's important. So we leave it up to you and your judgment. If you think it's important, add it to the essay. How does it connect? So how does that important thing connect to the rest of your essay? And finally, how do you use media to express your message? Okay, let's come back to these two questions here. This is where you have to be very careful about the websites that you visit. If you're using online sources, make sure that you look for websites that end in edu, .net, or .org. Now, of course, not all of your websites might end in these URLs, but that's okay. If you do find these, then you know that it's probably credible. Stay away from websites that are selling products or seem biased. Do not use Wikipedia. I'm sure you've been told this at school as well, and I'm telling you here in the video as well, do not use Wikipedia. Check the copyright date on the website. The more recent the information was posted or updated, the better it is. That just means that your information is up to date. Also, if you can, find out who created the website or who wrote the article, and try to find out if that person or group is trustworthy. So if it's just a standalone essay by somebody who doesn't really seem to care about the topic, then their information might not be accurate. But if it is a researcher in the field, maybe a college professor who has spent their life researching this topic, has written hundreds of articles about this topic, then you know that this person is trustworthy and you can definitely cite their work. So essentially, before you start doing any of your writing, it is important to do your research. So remember, follow these steps, answer these questions, and make sure that you're finding the right resources. Okay, so let's assume that you've done all of your research, you have your topic in mind, you sort of know what you want to write about for your problem and solution, but your ideas might be a little jumbled about. Let's put them in order. This is where a graphic organizer comes in. So I'll quickly take you through what a graphic organizer looks like for an expository essay. You have this in your worksheet. These are boxes with little subheadings so that you know exactly what you're supposed to write. This is a great way to organize your essay and organize your thoughts. Your introduction paragraph, you have to give background information about the problem and reasons why this problem is important or why the reader should care about it. So that's reason 1 and 2. If you have a third reason, you can give it, but it's not necessary. Then you have your middle paragraph or paragraphs, explain what the problem is and explain what the solutions are. Again, it doesn't have to be one paragraph for problem and one paragraph for solution. You could write multiple paragraphs for both. Finally, your conclusion paragraph. The purpose of a conclusion is to re-emphasize the importance of the problem and to re-emphasize the value of your solution. Now, let's take a look at what a completed graphic organizer could look like. We're going to focus on the problem of animal testing. It's a big problem all across the world. And let's assume that this is a topic that's very close to your heart. So you are writing about animal testing as a problem and you're going to provide solutions. So here is your introduction paragraph. We've written some information here about the background of the problem and 2 reasons why it is a problem that people should pay attention to. So you can pause the video now while you read these points and come back when you're done. Okay, welcome back. Now let's take a look at your problem paragraphs. For this graphic organizer, there are going to be many problem paragraphs. So we'll take a look at them one by one. We'll start here, explaining the problem. We're going to give a little in-depth information here about why this problem is, a problem and why it's important. Again, pause the video to read the information and come back when you're done. Welcome back. Now, as you may have noticed, the information here is very short. It's just a couple of sentences or a couple of phrases. This is just to organize your ideas. When you're actually writing the essay, you're going to provide a lot more information. You're going to flesh this out, cite your sources, and just make it a strong paragraph all around. Let's move on to the next problem paragraph. Again, pause the video, read the information, come back when you're done. Okay, welcome back. Here's the next paragraph. Notice that in each of these paragraphs, you are providing very specific issues here, very specific issues that pertain to your problem. So again, pause the video and read this information given here. All right, and finally, here is the last paragraph about the problem, again, giving very specific information about a specific type of drug that has been tested on animals. Pause the video, come back when you're done. All right, now these are the 4 problems that were provided. Let's take a look at solutions. So here is the paragraph with 2 solutions. You can read the solutions, pause the video, and come back when you're done. All right, welcome back. And finally, here is your conclusion paragraph. Here's the information about the importance of the problem, and here's the information about the value of your solution. Pause the video, read the information, come back when you're done. All right, welcome back. Now let's take a look at what a completed expository essay looks like based on this graphic organizer. So there are going to be many pages of this essay. Keep pausing the video so that you have enough time to read. I'm just going to keep going through the pages one by one. Pause the video. 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 All right, and that's it. Okay, all the best for your class and writing your graphic organizer. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.